In episode 2, I mentioned the 5 faculties, and I didn't explain them fully because I was focused on only the first one, which is faith, but I also mentioned wisdom, which is the 5th one. And as a result of not completely explaining the 5 faculties, someone who is my friend on Instagram, someone who I met at a conference in Florida, her name is Candy Dawn, and it was a detoxification, how to detoxify the body, which was actually, funnily enough, a question that you asked me in episode 1. And she commented that she would like to hear more about the 5 faculties. So I told her that I was going to do this next episode on the 5 faculties. So that's what I'll do. I'll start by listing them: faith, energy, mindfulness, Samadhi, and wisdom. Now, I didn't translate the word Samadhi, but it is usually translated as concentration. And I don't think concentration is a very useful term, because the connotations of concentrate are a teacher being angry at a student saying, concentrate, right? We don't want people to be anxious about Samadhi. Samadhi is the most beautiful state that a human being can experience. Samadhi is something that is developed, and it's developed. Samadhi, remember, is one of the factors of the Eightfold Path, and there's 3 factors of the path which fall into a division called Samadhi, the Samadhi factors, which are effort, mindfulness, and Samadhi itself, right? Now, I was just reading Bhikkhu Bodhi talking about Samadhi, or what he translates as concentration, as one of the 5 faculties. And he explains that it is the mind's one-pointed attention on an object, right? And so you can have Samadhi when you're concentrating on a piece of music, or like a soldier can have Samadhi when he is lining up a target, right? But in the context of Samadhi, which is one of the factors of the Eightfold Path, it's very specifically, it's right Samadhi. So it has to be a wholesome object of meditation, right? A wholesome object. So, for example, the breath, right? And the idea is to have that one-pointed attention, allow the mind to come to a state of stillness. And so you develop Samadhi, you develop one-pointed attention through the faculty of mindfulness, which is that awareness that you've strayed, and it's mindfulness brings the attention back to the object. And as that gets stronger, the Samadhi, the one-pointed attention on the object, lasts longer. It becomes stronger, right? That one-pointed attention becomes more durable and consistent. So these 5 faculties work together. They work in succession, and they also work with mindfulness as the central fulcrum, balancing the other 2 pairs. So faith and wisdom is a pair. Energy and concentration is a pair, and they both need to be balanced because they both have potential excesses and deficiencies, and an excess of one will lead to a deficiency in the other. So, for example, an excess of faith without being balanced by enough wisdom can have you veer into the wrong direction, right? Because you're too much relying on faith, you can misunderstand. You can misunderstand. So your understanding has to grow along with faith. If you have, if sort of the intellectual understanding faculty is out of control, and there's not enough confidence in the teaching of the Buddha, which lays out, the whole path that you need to follow and the step-by-step process, then you can get distracted with ideas which are not actually in line with the path. So you can stray from the path. You can be off the path with too much of the wisdom faculty or the intellectual faculty, right? So you need to balance faith in the Dharma, the Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths, the three marks of existence: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, not self. You have to balance faith in that with this faculty that investigates and tries to see clearly reality, right? And you have to have faith that, yes, it is going to be seeing clearly. It's not going to be thinking intellectually about things that is going to have you come to full understanding. And that's how faith and wisdom need to be balanced. Also, energy and concentration need to be balanced, because an excess of energetic striving can stop the mind from reaching that state of stillness, right? And an absence of energy, which can also be like the attempt to bring the mind to calm can lead to an absence, a lack of energy, right? So that samadhi needs to be tuned to its right level by rousing energy in some cases, because if you get too calm, you can become sleepy, right? So there's this constant balancing that goes on. And then you can, like I said, if you're focused on your breath and you become quite still, you might be falling down into drowsiness in that stillness, right? You have to rouse energy. If energy is too high, you're going to lose the stillness. So and mindfulness is the central point that does this balancing. It's the awareness that your energy is not high enough, the awareness that you're just dwelling too much in faithful misunderstanding, and you need to investigate and see clearly more, so that you can see for yourself and perceive the truths of these things. So the five faculties are beautiful in that way. That's the balancing that I was talking about. The succession is the fact that faith is required to get started, because if you don't have confidence in the path, the direction, then you're not going to begin walking it. So faith gets you started, and then faith produces energy in the direction to take the journey, right? That energetic excitation makes you start traveling along in this direction. And as you travel along in this direction, well, the direction is the cultivation of mindfulness and samadhi, right? So that propels you on to the growth of your mindfulness ability, the growth of your one-pointed attention on the object of meditation. And so that's that progression. And then one-pointed attention on the object of meditation leads to seeing more clearly, because that's the focusing of the mind in the present moment on an actual present object. So many people, especially in the West, where we develop the intellectual faculties extremely to the exclusion of all others, they're lost in thought all the time, right? So you can't be, and that's detached from reality. That's decoupled from the direct experience of the present moment. So you have to become still and aware of an object of meditation in order to observe reality directly. Because that's the funny thing. All we ever really do is observe reality directly. And then the intellectual faculty, its job is to categorize the elements of our experience, right? It's a categorization scheme, but it's like a book compared to a movie, or like a book compared to actually living an experience, right? So you have to see clearly, and you have to use that wisdom faculty to analyze the elements of direct experience, which becomes very focused and clear and powerful in the state of samadhi. So samadhi, like Bhikkhu Bodhi was pointing out that all of these factors, these are everyday functions of the mind, but normally they function in a scattered way. They're not unified in a common goal of awakening, of perceiving the truth, right? So faith would be confidence in mundane things, right? Like we all have confidence in mundane things. We have confidence that the sun will rise tomorrow. We have confidence that when we step out of bed, we're not going to fall through the floor. These things, we just have confidence in them because our experience has shown them to be consistently, things that we experience. And so energy, well, of course, we all have energy, right? When we get inspired about something, interested in something, we apply energy. Mindfulness, we're all aware of something, right? Concentration, that one-pointed attention, like I said, that could be attention on anything. It's simply attention. But Sama Samadhi is, and it's interesting because Sama Samadhi is briefly defined specifically as the 4 jhanas. So I'm introducing a new term here. Jhana is roughly translated as meditative absorption. Right? So when we talk about right samadhi in the context of the Eightfold Path, we're talking about these 4 states. It's actually 8 states, the progressively higher. The truth is you don't need all of them to attain nirvana. I think you can attain nirvana if you only have I think the 2nd jhana is necessary, but 3rd jhana, 4th jhana, it's a continuous process of refinement. Once one of the states is mastered, you can proceed on to the next stage, right? But 2nd jhana is strong enough to perceive the truths of reality, which can liberate the mind. But anyway, so these jhanas, I'll explain them in a little more detail because they are what constitute samadhi in terms of this path of cultivation, right? The 1st jhana has 5 factors to it. And the 5 factors are sometimes translated as applied and sustained thought. So applied and sustained thought, this is a little difficult to understand until you're kind of get into the neighborhood of samadhi, into jhana. And applied and sustained thought you have to actually apply some mental activity in order to keep yourself in the jhana state. It's like your one-pointed attention still requires some adjustment, some tuning, right? But it's also accompanied by rapture and happiness. And that's also translated as joy and pleasure, piti and sukha, right? And so you have rapture, which can be like a state of inspiration and excitement. It's rapturous, right? That's why it's translated as rapture. But and then the happiness or the pleasure is more of a bodily characteristic, I believe. And then the 5th one is ekagata, so one-pointed attention. In the 2nd jhana, vitaka and vichara, which is applied and sustained thought, mind, right? Application of mind. They cease. They become recognized as coarser things, and they stop functioning so that you're simply in stillness. You have one-pointed attention, which does not require any further effort. That's the 2nd jhana. You still have rapture and happiness. And in the 3rd jhana, rapture ceases as well. Still feel pleasure with the body, and you have singleness of mind. Your one-pointedness is perfected. You're still. And you have equanimity. So your mind is just unmovable. Equanimity is an unmovability of mind. In the 4th jhana, pleasure of the body ceases as well, and you're just purely equanimous. You've kind of withdrawn from the senses. You're just so absorbed in the object. They say even that the coarse physical object of meditation has become sort of an internal representation of the object. So that airy sensation of breath is, you've really withdrawn from your senses. It's in the fourth jhana, you just kind of click into this state that is so deep that you forget you have a body, right? And you're just awareness itself. And that's that's like the entrance into what's called the immaterial jhanas, because you're no longer, there is called the base of infinite space, the base of nothingness, the base of, it's the base of infinite space, the base of infinite consciousness, the base of nothingness, and the base of neither perception nor non-perception. Those are the 8 jhanas. And those further 4 are too refined for me. But I'm still working my way through these jhana states, but they're fantastic. And that's, like I said, the jhanas is what samadhi, in terms of the Eightfold Path, is defined as. Yeah, so the jhanas are samadhi. Samadhi is defined as the jhanas. When you enter jhana, you are in samadhi. They're somewhat synonymous, right? Jhana is a synonym for samadhi in terms of the Eightfold Path. And so that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get to jhana. We're trying to get to samadhi. That's why it's the school of samadhi, right? So understood in terms of the 5 faculties, the fourth is samadhi, and that is strengthened along with all these 5. I love these little packets, like the 5 faculties, right? Because each one of them can stand alone. It's the teaching of the Buddha is so fascinatingly holographic, right? It's like every part of the teaching contains the whole teaching, and the whole teaching contains every part. So the 5 faculties can bring you all the way to nirvana. If you have to expand into, it's like a fractal thing, right? You have to expand into what is wisdom? What is the wisdom faculty? What composes that? What composes samadhi? It's the jhanas. What composes mindfulness? What composes energy and faith? So energy, there's these 2 words that are very similar, and they mean energy and effort, right? So the effort factor of the Eightfold Path is very much related to the energy factor of the 5 faculties. And mindfulness is just that effort to cultivate that awareness that can bring the attention back to the appropriate objects and to balance those other faculties. So I just love that. There's so many of these, really. Like there's so many. The 7 factors of enlightenment. We can get into more of these teachings later, but yeah, basically. And so like the wisdom faculty will, of course, include awareness of these truths about reality. As I said, I don't want to get repetitive, but it's just, these are helpful little tools to put in a tool bag for reaching this state. So that's all I really have to say about the 5 faculties. I wonder where else we should take this episode, because we still have some time left. We've talked about samadhi.
Asking you in the first episode that how do you feel when you reach that state of samadhi? And I feel the 5 faculties mentioned are somewhat the way the body and the mind is experiencing when you are sitting quietly and reaching that state of samadhi. And yeah, you explained the 5 faculties very well, where it's 2 faculties in a set of unit. And yeah, that was pretty clear now.
Yeah, the jhana factors are really they're a very brief description of the experience, right? Like when the Buddha describes the jhana factors, he describes them so briefly. He just basically names them And it's up to the meditator and up to the commentarial tradition in Buddhism to explain them further. But because, yeah, I mean, it's really just piti and sukha alone, right? These are going to be the selling points, right? Because it's not going to be applied and sustained thought that's going to be getting people excited. Oh, I want that. I want that. No, it's rapture and happiness, right? Or joy and pleasure. Those are selling points. Equanimity is even better. It's an even higher, more refined, blissful state, because it's a state where it's a state of supreme contentment, right? So that's even, rather than, it's okay to crave the happiness and pleasure, the joy, the rapture and happiness. It's okay to crave those because it's called a wholesome pleasure. The experience of jhana, samadhi, is described as a wholesome pleasure. It's not to be feared. It's to be desired, and it's to be indulged in again and again. So that's. But the actual experience, let me describe a little more of the actual experience, okay? Let me tell you about, so I started to have these jhana factors arise the first time I was at the monastery. And they were most pronounced while I was listening to Dhamma talks, while I was listening to Ajahn Sona, directly observing his audience and saying whatever the Dhamma inspired him to say, right? To just speaking profound truth into the room in such a way that his listeners would most resonate with and benefit from. And I was starting to see the truths which he was revealing. And in this process of seeing the truth, I was starting to have this rapture factor arise during his talks. And it's this intense bubbling up of this joy from within, this joy. The mind is overwhelmed with delight in hearing the truth and perceiving the truth. I couldn't contain myself. When I say it bubbled up and spilled over like an overflowing cup, it spilled over in these fits of like laughter. I couldn't, you're supposed to be quiet when there's a Dhamma talk on, right? And out of respect for the monk, you're not supposed to make noise or clap or anything. You're supposed to just listen. So I would try to be as quiet as I could when these laughs of joy would escape from my body. But I would, you know what I mean? Like that's how it would manifest. And this would come up again and again as I listened to his Dhamma talks on a daily basis, every day for an hour. And that was the joy of perceiving these truths that I had never heard before. This never before heard teachings that were causing me to have this joy arise. And like like I said, I didn't really have samadhi while I was at the monastery. I would sit and I would meditate, and I would sit in the half lotus position, and my foot would fall asleep, and I would be there, I'd be present, I'd be aware, I'd be alert, I'd be awake. Sometimes I'd be drowsy, sometimes I would be restless, sometimes the hindrances, right? Yeah. I was pretty much in the grips of the hindrances for the entire 3.5 month period that I spent there. However, there were times where I felt, pleasure of the body and these things, but it's all graspy and plenty of movement of mind going on, right? And then it wasn't until, like I said, years later, where I would listen to his talks for thousands of hours, and I would sit for thousands of hours on a folded over pillow on a bed, in whatever bedroom I was staying in at the time. And it was many, many, many hours of practice later that my mind, through this practice, this cultivation of mindfulness, this allowing thoughts to arise and pass away without grasping them, without investing emotion in them and craving and clinging and suffering and anger and aversion and sadness and fear and all this other stuff that does come up during meditation, right? If you instead learn to just see things for what they are, which is sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and sensations in the body, or thoughts in the mind, right? Mental formations, mental objects, right? They arise and pass away. That's literally all they are. They are sensations. They are things which arise to consciousness of which we're aware. And then we invest them with a story.
Right.
We invest them with attachment and an emotion, right? So once I started to just observe the phenomena that was in my direct experience and just stay in the present moment. There's no suffering in the present moment, because if you're truly in the present moment, you're not clinging and you're not craving, because you can be experiencing pleasure, but as long as you're simply observing the pleasure without investing anything into it, then you see that it has the nature to arise, endure for a period of time, and then pass away. Same with pain. You feel a pain, but the pain does not need to cause you to suffer, because it arises and passes away and then it's gone. There's no need to make a big drama out of it, to suffer out of it, right? There's no need to fear it. It's not permanent, right?
I feel when I have started meditating now on regular basis, let's be honest, not regular basis, but I try my best at least to spare a few minutes. I have observed this thing in myself where the outside circumstances don't really affect me the way they used to. When I said to meditate, even if it was a bad day or if some hurtful things happened, or there was chaos in the during the whole day or anything, still when I said to meditate, I know I let all those emotions pass, and I just be like a third person observer of my own life, and without reacting to anything, I just let all those emotions pass, and I feel that helps me so much, because it's I feel that I take it in this way where, okay, this entire scenario is done and dusted, and nowadays when I do that, automatically when my mind calms down, solutions come up. So I feel that's a very big difference that I've started seeing in myself and in my life, where the minute all the chaos is calmed in my mind, I start seeing the solutions to problems. So I feel meditation and the regular practice of reaching to the point of stillness has actually started showing me results in my day-to-day life as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, life can be chaotic.
Yeah.
And I guess sort of the Buddhist teaching on that is that, yes, it's the nature of life to be chaotic, right? And to expect anything different is going to be the cause of suffering, right? Like, you can experience chaos and be completely free from suffering. That is the concept of equanimity, right? Because the world will be the world. It will be full of, these dramas playing out around you with people, because as long as you're with people, you're going to have dramas. And the equanimous person can be immersed in the world with all of its chaos and drama, but can simply see it as this impermanent changing play of phenomena, right, can simply see the sights and the sounds of it all as sights and sounds, right? How long does a sound last?
Yeah.
Like a few seconds, a minute, right? A few minutes, right? Maybe an hour, but then it's over.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the clinging to it and the being feeling like you're a part of that story, that like you're involved, feeling like you're really involved. That is where the suffering comes from, right?
Yeah.
And the sense of me, the sense of self, which you feel has been wronged and harmed and offended and hurt, instead of just seeing pain as a temporary phenomena that arises and passes away, including the emotions. But the emotions itself are acts of clinging, right? They're acts of craving. It's a desire. When you're angry, you desire for someone or something to change. When you are sad, you are feeling pain from having lost something. When you're scared, you feel like you need to protect yourself from some potential harm, right? But even if you were harmed, even if somebody did punch you or, hurt you physically, that would be a sensation, which would be impermanent and would arise and pass away. That's what every boxer and every fighter has to learn, is that don't fear the pain. The pain is temporary, right? You can overcome the pain in order to achieve victory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that joy, that pleasure of the body. That's what. Okay. So when I sat down, and I was probably in my bedroom, staying with my father, when I first clicked into this state. That's where I see myself sitting, facing, like, on the bed, up near the head of the bed, sitting on a folded over pillow, looking towards the door and bringing my mind to stillness. And then I remember the rapture, this intense feeling of, wow, like it's awe. It's a state of awe, like the type of thing that makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck. You're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Right? And then as you become still, then your body also fills with what's called sukha, pleasure, right? And so your mind is in a state of joy and excitement, and as you're still, and it's because you're still, because your thoughts have quieted and ceased. Your mind is in a different state, a state that's not ordinary, and a state that's content, whole, and you're not being pulled or pushed or pushing or pulling like we're normally doing. And then it's because it's you feel that sense of release, and the mind rejoices, right? And then that pleasure with the body.
I feel I've started being more happy after meditating regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
And the joy that you are talking about, I feel I do experience it now when I sit to meditate on regular basis, at least for 15 minutes. I do try every day. And yeah, that actually, it's no more a task to sit. It's more of, yes, I want to do it. And, I want to reach that state again tonight as well. I want to go to that state of calmness and that state of peace, away from this world, and just with your mind, and just reach that calm state where you know that, okay, nothing is going to harm me, nothing is going to affect me anymore. I'm just so happy and relaxed. So yeah, I feel I've started experiencing what you're talking about right now.
Yeah, it should gladden your mind.
Yeah.
It should be like an oasis.
Yeah.
When you sit down on that cushion.
Yeah.
It might not be like that when you begin, but that is what we're working towards.
Yeah.
And so when I was getting into that state, like getting into the neighborhood of samadhi, then that that rapture and pleasure born of seclusion would come would come and visit, and my one-pointedness was starting to develop on the entrance of the breath, where you feel that sensation of the air passing into the nostrils and out of the nostrils. And you just keep that attention there, and it's becoming consistent.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're in the neighborhood of samadhi, you get these periods where you no longer need to apply effort, and it's like you're sailing in stillness.
Yeah.
Right? You're sailing through the air, like that arrow that I described, right?
Yes.
It's but that arrow, I'm trying to think of a good metaphor, but it's like you then all of a sudden the mind, there's a wave of something that shouldn't be there, some kind of a thought or a desire, right? And then you have to apply the vitaka and vichara, applied and sustained thought. You have to apply something in order to calm that wave down, bring that wave back down to flatline, right? And so that's what you have to do. You have to bring your mind back to the one-pointedness. And as soon as you start to lose the one-pointedness, you have to bring it back. But then once it's back, then you're sailing for a little longer, right?
Yeah.
And that's like in the first jhana, there will be some of that. There will be some adjustment, some tuning. And then once you get into the idea, which I just read about, is that the first jhana, that's something that's good. If you're there, if you got applied and sustained thought, and you're just kind of sailing in that detachment, that state of release, that state of stillness, that's a great place to be. But you master that one first, right? You master that, and then eventually that one-pointedness becomes so strong, so durable, that the applied and sustained thought are no longer necessary. Then you make a concerted effort to eliminate the necessity for applied and sustained thought, so that you can just simply enter into the first jhana and then proceed into the second jhana, where you're simply still and zero effort is necessary in order to stay there. That's become purified of those factors. And then you purify further and you remove the rapture, and then you purify further and you remove the pleasure of the body, and you enter equanimity. And so that's what it is. That's what we're working towards. The goal is that we all reach these jhanas, which are the definition of samadhi. Samadhi is the jhanas. And that is going to take some determination. That is going to take some planning of time to practice, and making sure we do sit down and meditate, making sure we have all of the preliminaries in place, because you need to have, remember, we've skipped ahead to the samadhi factors and the wisdom, and we're talking about samadhi and wisdom, but we need to get our sila, which is our moral virtue, right? We need to get that in place, because if we don't have that, and that's mindfulness is the tool. And sitting down in meditation, like, we have these unwholesome tendencies of mind, these tendencies towards anger and these unwholesome states, and also fear and sorrow, and these are all because of attachment, right? And then the development of mindfulness allows us to begin to detach from the things which cause us to go into these emotional states, to do these activities of mind which are unwholesome. So we start to see things arising and passing away and just allow them to be. You start to become an observer of phenomena rather than an active participant. And in the thoughts and the dramas and the narratives that we have in our mind, we start to see them for what they are, which is clouds or storms within ourselves, right? And as we just simply learn to observe the clouds for what they are, then they start to they start to dissolve away. And then, the blue sky mind, the clear sky, right? The clouds clear, or the moon is illuminated from behind the clouds. And that's the state of samadhi, when you're reflecting what's clearly there. There's nothing in the way. Yeah. It's a gradual process of cultivation. You can't rush it. It's like growing plants, right? You can't make the plant grow faster by tugging on it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Today's talk on the 5 faculties. I hope you guys found something useful in there that you can use in your own practice. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe. And thanks, Candy Dawn, for today's topic, the 5 faculties. I hope that you found that valuable. And if anybody else has any further questions about things that we discuss, please don't hesitate to leave a comment, and I will do a podcast on it.
Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And thank you so much for all the comments and all the focus on our videos. We really appreciate that people are really interested in the topics that we actually talk about and are really keen to know about things in depth.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.